good to go.
We're going to be this week at the Highlands Golf Course from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Monday. Oh, it's Family Day. Yeah, Monday, February 15th. Yeah, putting two and two together sometimes is a little difficult for me. So it's open. I think it's open to the community, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Hopefully you don't get a snowstorm, but other than that, it's awesome. So that's happening in Edmonton. We have constituted our committees for our Best Christian Workplace Survey results. And as some of you remember, we've kind of divided them into three different categories. We've got virtuous living, compensation and retention, and Christian focus. So those committees are all meeting this week. Virtuous living met on Monday, and compensation retention met this morning, and then on Friday, Christian Focus is going to meet. I'm gonna read the names of the people on these committees, and the purpose being that if you have some ideas or you want to give them input, they're more than willing. I'm speaking for them as well as to them. They're more than willing to receive your feedback. So on the Virtuous Living team, we've got Anna up in Edmonton. We've got Ben here from Employment. We've got Mary from Property Management. We've got Giselle from Employment. Giselle from Employment. Donna. Is Donna here? Donna's here. Donna. And Paul Thorne up in Edmonton. And Brian Kennican. And Sisse. So that's the Virtuous Living group. Compensation and retention, we have Matt from the shelter, Kathleen Lafleur from over there doing benefits, Rochelle Marshall from Edmonton, Crystal Lowen from over in development, Tracy Hunter from Edmonton, Christina Bartlett, Brandon Bursey, Byron Bradley, and Boris Lessar. So that's the compensation and retention team. And then Christian Focus, we have Jessica from Volunteer Services, Greg Wayland, sorry Greg. We've got Mel out here from Street Level, and Benjamin Weeb from Edmonton, Jonathan Lutz Orozco, and we've got Drew from Volunteer Services, Mario from Edmonton, and Kelly Vance. So we've tried to get a good representation from both Edmonton and Calgary. So if you have thoughts around how we can pursue and move some of these areas forward, please contact one or several of these that I've already read. Calgary Donor Appreciation Night is coming up this February the 11th. It's a coffee house style event here in the 102 building, and so maybe next week we'll get a little more information on that. Also, coldest night of the year is just ahead of us on February the 20th, and Byron's going to come and just talk a little bit about that.
Hi, Edmonton. Sorry this doesn't involve you, but hi, Chris.
Hey, Brian.
You're looking good, my friend. Let's do coffee soon, okay? Sorry, everyone. Good friend. 17 days, coldest night of the year. 100 communities across Canada are doing this on the same day. Pretty big deal. First year the Muskete's been involved. Awesome for us to come together with the Catholic Diocese and Kairos, which represents over 120 churches and 10 different denominations. Pretty big deal for us. I know you've heard about it often. You're going to hear about it more. There's not much time left. So currently we have Cisse. He captained a team. He signed up a team. So if you're interested as staff, we would love to see each department. This is just an idea. Each department would just see if you could get a team together. Now this is on a Saturday. You're not expected to be there, but if it's something you'd like to be a part of, we'd love to see a lot of buy-in from SEED staff to try to reach within your church network and your network to see if you could get some people to come walk. There's a 2K, 5K, 10K. You don't all have to do the same thing. It's family friendly. It's all ages. Eau Claire Market, 4 p.m. on a Saturday. Big chili meal at the end of the event. We got a lot. On the walk across the street here, I just got a sponsor give us some money for the event. So it's great to connect with some of our current donors, but really it's about to bring awareness for people experiencing poverty and homelessness. So we'd love it for people in the room to gather people from your department, try to come out for this. We really want to make this a marquee event in our community. It's only been running for 3 years across Canada, and we think with our leverage and our reach, we could really increase this event here in Calgary. Currently, Calgary's in 3rd place out of 100 cities in Canada for money raised and walkers signed up. Okay? So please, we'd love to see you come out. Any more information, please come speak to myself or speak to Donna or Brittany, Jessica, or a few of the staff here that are involved with the Colas Night of the Year committee. So February 20th, 17 days. Go on the website. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Byron. Next week, I have the opportunity of speaking here at Faith Connect. I'm really looking forward to it. But this week's speaker is Chris Knutson. Some of you know Chris, at least Byron does. He's the executive director of the Neighbor Center, and for many years worked at the Mustard Seed in Edmonton. So, Chris, we're excited to have you speak to us this morning, and look forward to hearing what God has put on your heart. And at the end, if you wouldn't mind closing in prayer, that would be awesome. Thank you. Let's give him a hand.
Thanks, Steve. It's nice to be back here at the Mustard Seed. It's been a while, and yeah, I have a lot of fond memories and a lot of strong connections to the community up here in Edmonton. So when Dean asked me to do this, I didn't realize he was bailing out to go to Hawaii, and so I won't hold it against him. But he asked me to come and just bring a reflection of what's on my heart or what I've been thinking about. And I'm going to actually come back to this whole idea of love and justice. They're common themes for the work we do, but I've been wrestling with them for almost 20 years of what they actually mean and what they look like in the work we're involved in. And so I thought to start, I'd tell a wonderful Mustard Seed story from many, many years gone by. It's probably about 15 years ago that this event happened. And I was working with one of our staff members who was here. Her name was Evelyn, and we were working on the main floor in the Calgary drop-in one night, and it had to be January, February, something like that, because it was cold out. And one of my favorite folks came wandering through the front doors, and not in a straight line. And he was one of the guys that I love to hate and hate to love. And so he came through the door, and I knew right away that he'd been drinking, which means he was going to ask me to fight, because that was the common theme, right? When he's sober, we had a great relationship. When he came in drunk, the first thing he said, "Chris, let's fight. Let's go outside, we're going to fight." And I just didn't have the patience for him that night. And I was just like, "Russell, get out of the building, right? You need to go." I had no patience. He was whining and complaining, and I just wanted to see him gone. And Evelyn sort of stepped in between us, and she just said, "Chris, I've got this." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Evelyn." I didn't want to deal with him, right? I knew what it was. I didn't have the patience. And so I just left and went back to my, doing the other stuff in the building and taking care of things. And about 20 minutes later, I came back around the corner to the front door. And for those of you who know the Edmonton drop-in, you go down a flight of stairs and get to the door. And there at the bottom of the stairs was Evelyn with Russell's hands in her hands as she was rubbing them to warm them up because he didn't have any gloves. And she was just sitting quietly with him, and his whole posture has changed, and the two of them were just sitting at the bottom of the stairs. And I walked away and thought, man, was I an ass or what? In the midst of this, I didn't see a guy who was just freezing cold. I saw a problem that I needed to deal with, and somebody that I just needed to get rid of. And I can tell you that this was not one of my proudest moments as a chaplain. I sort of lost the whole chaplaincy hat, and lost the whole idea of what does it mean to love others, despite who they are or how they've treated you. And so this event, I've gone back to over, here and there in my speaking and thinking and going, what does that mean, right? What is justice? Russell had hurt some people in our community, had been banned from our center numerous times. But how does this connection work? What does it mean to love somebody but still pursue justice? And so these two dynamics, I have, over the course of 20 plus years, wrestled back and forth with in this work. I think to start with, I'm going to give you a couple of quick definitions. The idea of justice, we often hear that term. You hear social justice or restorative justice or economic justice. But a lot of people don't know what you're actually talking about. When I hear people speaking, whether it's at church or events, and start talking about justice, I'm not sure what they mean. And so I would just want to clarify kind of what I mean when I say the word justice. And it's really simple. Justice to me is about making things right. It's about making things right between us and others. It's about making things right between us and God. And it's about making things right between us and creation. So it sort of has three dynamics or three spheres that it works in. But at the end of the day, it's about making things right. It's not about fairness. It's not about did they get their just desserts. It's about making things right. And then the second one would be the idea of love. And so for love, I'd go back to looking at the New Testament. There's a word in there, agape, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard or studied about. That's kind of the definition I'll use for love. And the idea of agape is basically it's a love for others that seeks out the best for others. It's a love that says, I want what's best for this person. So it's different than the romantic type of love. It's an idea that just, whether it's a neighbor or somebody you don't even know across the world, it's the idea of loving them is seeking out the best for them. So how do these two dynamics kind of intersect, right? What does it mean to love, but also to seek out justice? And so if we look in Mark 12, when Jesus is asked what's the greatest commandment, it is to love others. It's that whole idea that you are, above all things, to seek out the best for others, to seek out the good for others. And so if we start there and say, okay, well, how does that play out in my life? How does that play out in my work, in my community, on the hockey team I play for, and how I operate in this world? If I am seeking out, if I'm told to love others and to seek out the good for the others, to seek out what's best for the others, how do we start living that out? And a great example of this is a friend of mine. His name is Tom O'Connor. He is the former state chaplain for the Oregon State Prison System. So for about a decade, Tom oversaw all the prison chaplains in the Oregon State Prison System. And I can remember him sort of telling me about this whole idea of loving others. Like, what does it mean to really seek out the best for others? And how he brought that into his work. And so one of the things that Tom was required to do as part of this position is he would meet annually with all the wardens from the Oregon State Prison System. They'd have these annual gatherings. They'd meet. They'd talk about, all sorts of issues, whether it was gangs or the drugs in the prisons or new programs and that. It was just a whole week of these meetings. And Tom had a great relationship with one of the wardens who said, you need to be here. You need to come to this meeting and you need to hear what's going on. So Tom came and he sat, and so if you can picture kind of a room, maybe like the Foothills boardroom, of a bunch of prison wardens sitting around the table. And at this meeting, Tom's sitting there and they're discussing what new programs they're going to institute that year, what programs they're going to bring in. And Tom just sort of said, guys, I've got 3 questions. That's all I have, and then I'll let you continue the discussion. And so he said his first question is, like, what is it? So this program you want to bring in, what is it? Is it an addictions program? Is it an anti-violence program? Is it a gang intervention program? What is it? And so the wardens would describe it, and he'd say, so what does it do? Is it a 12-step, or what is the process that this program goes through? And so the wardens would stand there and they'd list off this whole program. And then he'd quietly ask, he'd wait till the room was quiet, and he said, is it loving? Now let that sink in for a moment. If you can picture asking a bunch of prison wardens if their programs are loving, right? He said you could have heard a pin drop. That all of a sudden you have these wardens go, what are you talking about? Like nobody asked that question about prison. And he said, is it loving? Do your programs seek out the best for your inmates? Do they seek out the good for them? Do the programs want them to improve their lives and to change and to grow to be better people? And ultimately, is it loving? And so it's been a question that I've sort of been stuck on for a while. Is it loving, right? The Russian author Leo Tolstoy puts it this way. The whole trouble, he wrote about the criminal justice system, is that people think there are circumstances when one may deal with human beings without love. But no such circumstance ever exists. Human beings cannot be handled without love. It cannot be otherwise, because mutual love is the fundamental law of human life. So if we look at love as the foundation of everything that gets built on, right? This idea of loving others. And when we decide to do this, when we decide that, yeah, I'm going to practice this out, whether it's in my work or my community or my church, the next thing that's amazing is also you find you have a passion for justice. Because I can't seek out the good for another without seeking out justice for that person, without seeking out that which God sort of calls us to, right? And so it's that outflowing, right? Both of these, this whole idea of agape and justice, they're both proactive. There's no such thing as an inactive love or a passive justice. You can't have those two. If love is seeking, if you're seeking the good of others, then it's something active. It's something we're doing. It's something we're impacting on our communities. It's something we're moving towards. Justice is the same thing, right? We cannot have, love without justice. If you try to go that route, you end up in some place with some sort of sentimental, emotional, wishy-washy type of feeling. Love has to have justice attached to it. I can't tell the poor that I love them and not be impacted by their situation. I can't tell those who are being oppressed, we love them, and walk away and not do anything about it. Love requires us. If we love and we seek the good for others, it's going to require us to scream out, to yell out, to cry out for justice. We're going to cry out. And for justice, you can't have justice without love, because you just ended up in a place that's crude, inhumane, that seeks punishment. The two have to come together, right? And the God we worship, that we read about in the Bible, his essence, 1 John 4, his essence is love. So everything flows out of that, including his justice. And that's where we're being called to, right? As we're being called to love others, as that is the greatest commandment, it all starts from there. Then we're also being called to seek out justice for others. Because the God we worship not only loves justice, but commands us to seek justice for everybody. There's a fellow by the name of Jose Miranda. I know a lot of people may not know who he is, since he's a South American priest. But he puts it this way. He says, love and justice are not abstract concepts. They're not operations of emotion, but rather activities. Activities of God and those who choose to respond to God's imperatives to live in his image. Let me just read that one more time. Love and justice are not abstract concepts. They're not operations of emotion, but rather activities. Activities of God and those who choose to respond to God's imperatives to live in his divine image. So if we go back to this whole idea of when Jesus, Matthew 22, Mark 12, whichever one you want to pick, when Jesus is asked, what's the greatest commandment? It's to love the Lord your God, and is to love others, is to love the neighbor as ourselves. And through just my experiences and what I've been working on and just the people I have met over the years who have impacted me, I fully have come to sort of appreciate that this is one of the most dangerous passages in the whole Bible. It's absolutely revolutionary. When I started to really sort of understand, I was very involved in the restorative justice movement for quite a while, working with former inmates, and just really to figure out what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to radically love? And then I kind of came back to the scripture and started sort of moving it out, sort of like throwing a stone in a pond, the ripple effect. So if you can think about what does it mean to love others, to seek out the good of others, if you can start with maybe your own family. Not all of us get along with our family, We don't all have great families, but what does it mean to seek out the good of our family? If you move that on and say, what does it mean to seek out the good of my neighbors? For the people living next door to me, down the street from me, behind the back alley, how would that look differently if I sought out the good for them and I want to seek the best that they could be? And then I said, okay, well, what does that look like as a community? What does it mean to seek out the best for my Muslim neighbor? What does it mean to seek out the good for our Indigenous brothers and sisters? What does that look like when you start moving into those fields and say, I've been commanded to love others? First and foremost, what does that mean when I seek out the best for people that I may not agree with, that I may not like, that I may not get along with? But then you move it out even further and go, we live in a democracy, we have a government in office. What would a loving provincial budget look like? I haven't seen one before, but I'm asking that question. What would that look like if the budget were a loving budget that sought out the good of others? And you start moving, right? All of a sudden, the world starts to change a bit. What would our economic systems look like if we sought out the best for those overseas, right? Think about the way our consumerism, our materialism. If I truly said, I love those people who are working in factories in Bangladesh, what would that look like in the way my behavior would change? So I hope you start to catch the picture. Like, this is an absolutely revolutionary, radical adjustment to the way the world is. If we started at this point and said, you know what, I'm going to start with love. I know there's lots of songs that probably start like that, but we're going to start as love as our foundation, as how we're going to interact with others, whether they're our geographical neighbors, whether they're on the other side of the world. How would that change how we live? What would our communities look like? What would our churches look like? What would our government look like? What if in our boardrooms of our corporations, you had CEOs asking, are our policies loving? Is the way we do business loving? Do we seek out the good of others when we're doing this? That would change. That would just radically change our society. And so that is why I come back, and I keep coming back to this. This is revolutionary, and I struggle with how this gets lived out in my life, let alone with our government. All I know is that we haven't been given the option. God doesn't leave this as an optional part of his call to us. It is an imperative. We're told to love others. I need to start there. St. Francis kind of put it this way. He said, you know what? You only know as much as you do. You only know as much as you do. I only know about love as much as I can do it. And then the more we do it, the more we learn about it. I think the more we do it, we also start to learn about justice. And what does that look like in our world, in our community, in the work we're involved in, right? What is justice? And it has to flow out of love. Justice can't flow out of anywhere else. It has to flow out of the fact that I love this other simply because I've been told to. And I'm going to seek out the best for them. And whatever that may look like. I recognize we work in different contexts. We work, some are in offices, some are working on front lines. What does this look like in your world? Gandhi said that we cannot change the world, but I can change. And you see, when this change in me starts to happen, and it starts to meet the change in others, when the light of love in me begins to grow, and it meets the light of love in you, what starts off as a flicker, as a small flame, as others gather, it grows. And all of a sudden it moves from being a flame into a beacon in our communities. And through it we create a space where the fear of others is vanquished, where the stranger is welcomed, where the broken are healed, and the poor are cared for. And it's in this space that we begin to live as women and men created by God, created in his image, and living out his image in our communities. So let me just close our time together with a short prayer. Father, fill our lives with your love, with a love that seeks out the good for others, a love that serves our neighbors, our communities, our nations. And out of this love, I pray we'll be a people with a passion for justice. We know that every effort to better society, especially when injustice and sin are so ingrained, is an effort that you bless, that you want, and that you demand of us. To learn to do right, to seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. Amen. Thank you. I'm not sure how you close this. That's the end of it.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
See you later.
Yeah.
See you guys.
All over. Back to work.